actually caused by water. So these all argue against there being an extraterrestrial impact being the cause of the megafauna extinction at the end of the Pleistocene. And hunting continued into the Folsom period, as I mentioned before, which is considered the usually called the Paleo-Indian period at this today. And this is from about 12,500 to 12,000 years ago, and it's known for massive kill sites. Olson-Chubbuck site in Colorado has a 10,000-year-old bison kill site where there's 200 or so bison that were stampeded into an arroyo and systematically butchered. But bison were still around in huge numbers when European colonists came across. So even these massive kill sites in the Paleo-Indian period didn't cause the extinction of at least one type of megafauna, that is to say bison. So that's also not really a plausible scenario for that humans were the cause of the extinction of megafauna. The Folsom technology has these Folsom points, but also which is done through pressure flaking rather than percussion flaking. So you're putting pressure, snapping little bits off, but you also and not striking. So it's very fine work and very skill work. But you do also have that overshot technique and fluted along the entire length on both sides, which risks destroying your whole object that you've built. So why do this overshot technique? Why have this flute? Well, it's been studied a lot through in terms of does it help to reduce breakage? Is it used to haft into your spear? Does it help for penetration for hunting? Is it just a ritual? Is it just what you learned? Your trainer taught you this is what you do at the end of it, so you do that. So there's a lot of explanations for, and probably a combination of these, maybe ability to continue to resharpen the tool. So there's perhaps multiple reasons for this kind of risky technique. But other technology is also found for in the Paleo-Indian period for different environments. And so as humans were congregating into different groups, they were adapting to each of their local environments and doing their own thing, creating a technology that was specific to their environments. In the transition from the Paleo-Indian with the Folsom into the Archaic period, you have some characteristics of more plants and small animals being involved in the diet. So fewer of these large kill sites, more small animals, more plant gathering, and more technologies that accompanied this food processing. Grinding stones used for cooking, and people aren't moving around as much anymore. You're not following these big herds of animals. The small animals are just around and about, so you can just sort of concentrate on those. So there's less mobility in that. There seems to be, with less mobility, you're sort of coalescing an identity around that fixed location and the group that lives there. So you have systematic treatment of the dead that's localized, that's specific to that group, to their culture, to their social practices. And you have some new technology coming in that may be, like for instance, stemmed corner and side notch points. We have a specific desert side notch point right here in the Great Basin, in fact. And this base tang could be for hafting, could be things like for an atlatl, which is a lever for used for getting more distance with projectiles. And one site in the Wilson-Leonard site shows this transition between the Paleo-Indian to Archaic as a process. It's not just a flip of the switch. That these groups that were previously big game hunters are starting to adapt to a new set of social and economic realities. They are now settling into smaller into groups that are staying in one place or in less mobile, I should say. And they're starting to focus as a process into hunting smaller game and plant processing. Also, some variations, like in the southeastern United States, you start to get, from about 8,000 years ago, emphasis on shellfish collection, and you have big middens, which are just trash heaps of discarded shells. And so you can imagine people eating limpets and oysters and things like that, and discarding the shells in piles. You also have canoes. There's 41 late archaic wooden canoes that have a specific design and techniques, hollowing out the wood with fire. And so you have local traditions springing up, which means you have different cultures and different groups that are starting to coalesce around regions and survival strategies in that region specific to that group of people. And when you have a group of people that are settling down, that are focusing on surviving in that area, building up their society, that's where you start to have social complexity start to increase. And this is going to be what takes us into the next chapters, the next section, which is increase in social complexity and the switch from just managing your environment or adapting to your environment to actually managing your environment to favor yourself. And that's the Neolithic revolution that we're going to talk about in the next chapters, which is saying, I don't want to follow the seasons. I want to change the world to suit me. So at a place like Watson Brake in Louisiana, from about 5,400 to 5,000 years ago, it was a very large site with multiple earthen embankments, which must have taken massive labor to create. We don't fully understand it, but it shows that social complexity with these increasingly sedentary and less mobile communities was starting to create a new type of culture, a new type of society that had identities of a people in a place. And that's where we're going to go next. So that's it for this chapter, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.